but Brunson controlled him. And then when Brunson got him on the ground, his confidence just kept building and building. Shahbazyan's heart kept, well, I'm not going to say he, broke him down. Like, the dog was never out of the fight. But he was in his head, and he just laid it on Shahbazyan, and he let him know who the veteran is. He let him know what the sport's about. And he let him know that he's in there with Derek Brunson, and he's not in there with those other guys. And round 3 came around, and I saw the same thing. They should not have let Shahbazyan continue. But, man, I have so much respect for Shahbazyan for standing up and talking to that, that retarded doctor and saying, yeah, I want to fight. The doctor's just like, you want to fight? Yeah, I want to fight. Okay. All the viewers knew he should not have been in that fight.
Every fighter is going to say they want to fight. Every fight. Oh, well, 99.9% of fighters are going to say there was that one fighter that one time, and that's pretty much been the talk of it. The doctor wasn't really implementing his tools as a doctor. I barely saw him pull out the flashlight to do a pupil test. He wasn't like, hey, what day is it? Do you know where you are? What's your middle name? Questions that you're supposed to ask somebody who may have been concussed. And if they can't answer you, if they're like, it's Tuesday, then that's how you stop a fight. I mean, I don't know who this cat was. I don't know who this doctor was. He had gloves on. I assume that he knows what he's doing. But hopefully Shahbazyan isn't hurt. You could see Shahbazyan get his confidence stripped out away from him. Halfway through, 3/4 of the way through the first round, you saw him get a little gassed. You saw Brunson start pouring on him, and you saw Shahbazyan throwing 1 to 2 strike attacks, not following up with any combinations, not looking for anything but really just a way in or a way out, because there was nothing there for him. And Brunson he vetted him. He let him spend out his energy early because he knew he would, and then he just drained him and beat him. He beat him. And Derek Brunson deserves all the credit in the world for that. He deserves some more top 10 talent, because I think we might have got a bad read on him early. Maybe we saw the right person at the wrong time, and maybe his time is coming up. Maybe he gets eventually climbs up to the title match to get a rematch sometime or something. But yeah, he looks like championship material. After that night, I'm convinced. I'm on his hype train.
He does, but Shahbazyan, again, I don't want to take anything away from Shahbazyan, but Shahbazyan needs another 3 to 4 guys that have his experience. I mean, he's a young guy. Hats off to him. He wants to be the youngest UFC champion. But even John Jones went through a bunch of guys that, theoretically he could be easier than like Derek Brunson against Shahbazyan. Shahbazyan needed more of that. Every once in a while you'll get like an Israel Adesanya who can break through like that and start taking out big dogs. But as far as I know, maybe Shahbazyan had a few pro boxing matches, but I don't know what his accolades are in terms of combat sports. I know he's trained since he was a little kid with Ronda Rousey, but I don't know any other titles he's had. And I did think that win was a fluke over Brad Tavares. I don't see him beating Brad Tavares the next time. And so when I saw this fight with Brunson, I'm like, I think it's too soon, too early. But Shahbazyan will be back. Give Shahbazyan a couple more guys lower on the totem pole. He'll be back. Don't throw him in with Jacare next. Please, Dana White, don't do that. And Dana won't do that. He's going to give him someone lower on the totem pole.
Shahbazyan is 22 years old. He's a kid. 22 years old. He's already cracking into the top 15 of talent in the UFC. Holy shit. That's amazing. Go ahead and ride bench for a little bit. Maybe take those 4 fights over the next 2 years. Maybe find some new training camps to work with. Find some new coaches. Find some new techniques. He looks like he could use some new – he's a young kid. He can still learn some new tricks. It's the best time for him, I think, to go to some groups that might be able to handle his talent and redirect his focus for a little bit. because his striking isn't going anywhere. He could do a year of wrestling or a year of jiu-jitsu, and I don't think his striking would be greatly affected by the time off. I think it would do him some great. So I think we're going to see amazing things from the kid. I'm not worried about his career moving forward. I'm more so looking at Brunson because his window is closing. Let's be honest. He's at the age range where he's looking to make that push. He's trying to get to that title run again. And he had some great momentum going into it on his last push. But man, was he silenced by some top tier talent that, I mean, it's kind of like the situation of Chael Sonnen. You know, he would have probably been one of the longest reigning champions had Anderson Silva not been in that throne. You know, he's a talent that in any other era would have been extremely dominant. It's just a situation of, man, there's some really good talent right now. And in all weight classes, it's on all levels. There's something in the water. I don't know what's going on, but there is an elite step up in competition worldwide lately that I think has brought the competition bar higher and more level across the board.
Yeah, for sure. And then you look at the female talent is, for me, is like, oh my gosh, every card now we're having these female fights that are just, you know, they're so awesome to watch. And as a fan who was never really a fan of women's MMA, you know, I love the big fights, right? Like Cyborg versus Rousey, Cyborg versus Nunes, Joanna JJ versus whoever Rose. But I wouldn't watch the lower ones. But now, like the lower cards, the contenders are really getting my interest, and I think that's so great for the UFC in the future of the sport now, because we're going to have like a whole side of women's MMA that's going to rival men's MMA. It's really, really cool watch.
I'm telling you, man, the day that we have the next Simone Biles go, I think I'll make more money as an MMA fighter, and decide to take that type of athletic explosiveness to the sport of women's MMA, we're going to be seeing a completely different sport entirely. I can only imagine what it would look like for Simone Biles to throw a flying knee off a cage, Anthony Pettis style. You know what I mean? Like, we're seeing amazing talents. We're seeing amazing athletes. But are we seeing the Michael Jordans? Are we seeing the LeBron Jameses? We will be. We will be very soon, for sure. And it's going to blow our sport out of the water, and it's going to be nearly unrecognizable. I'm trying to remember the name of the football player for San Francisco. There's a clip of a San Francisco player training in the gym, hitting a bag and just messing around with some like capoeira techniques just to stay limber and stuff. But the dexterity he was striking with and the speed of movement, oh my God, I think he could outclass half of the undercard fighters in his weight class. And that's just a guy who catches balls for a living, who decided to kick the bag because Zumba class ended early. You know what I mean? Like, he has like, I got the room to myself for a little bit. It's pounded away. It's amazing. It's amazing the level of athleticism that's out there, and pretty soon it's going to be transferring to our sports. So I think I think we got in on a good time, Don. I think pretty soon we're going to be seeing super athletes, and it's going to be a completely different game altogether.
Oh yeah. Bring on the super athletes. When kids, you know, start growing up with MMA, that's going to be so beautiful. You know, it's always tough though when you see a football player come in and throw those techniques, because I mean, you've trained, you know, years in the arts, stand-up arts, you know, and I obviously have too. And, you know, you see the top athletes come in, but a martial artist a lot of times is used to an athletic fighter. So it would have to be at that deciding factor early on in their athletic career of, do I choose this or this? And then they'll be able to get the years of experience, because the crossover thing works here and there, but a lot of times the gap of skill is so wide with a lot of the experienced martial artists. But yeah, it's a completely different sport. Now MMA is like, I mean, I want to see the statistics, but MMA has to be passing up a lot of the other sports as far as like viewership, fan base, obviously shows. People that have never watched MMA are now watching MMA. So it's a great time to be in this sport and be calling these fights, man.
Well, I hate to say it, but the pandemic did wonders for the viewership of the sport. For a while, MMA and ESPN Classic were the only sports that you could really tune into. And it's either watch something that you've watched before or maybe learn a new sport for a little bit. And what a great time, too, because they got to see some really amazing fights in a short period of time that were pieced together. Sean Shelby did an amazing job of just slapdashing, copy-pasting fights together that really shook up the divisions. You know, we were supposed to see Khabib and Tony, and that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. That hurts me to say it, so it's never going to happen. But, you know, that's the game. That's the hurt business. And Justin Gaethje is definitely deserving, especially after that performance he put on against Tony Ferguson that looked focused and ready. That wasn't a Tony. I mean, maybe the weight cut that he had committed to previously had affected, but we're not here to split hairs. That was his choice. He came into the fight mentally prepared, and he got his ass kicked by a really game and tough Justin Gaethje. I hope the same Justin Gaethje shows up on Fight Night with Khabib. No, he will. He looks good. He just did Joe Rogan's podcast and looked fantastic in the sparring sessions. Man, and here's the thing: if Khabib wins, if Khabib beats Justin Gaethje, we get to look forward to GSP versus Khabib potentially happening in October. That is huge. That's huge.
Yeah, I always roll my eyes though on that because I just don't think GSP wants to fight.
He said he'll do it. He said he's considering it. I mean,
he's considering it. He's considering it.
Yeah.
He's considering it. But for him to fight, man, so long out of the game and then do it. I mean, if anybody can do it, it's GSP. But I just don't think that he wants to fight with Khabib. You know, I could see maybe him fighting like Conor McGregor. He would take more of a winnable fight, but with Khabib, that just seems like a losing battle. I mean, why would he tarnish his amazing legacy with the chance to possibly beat Khabib, but beat Khabib in his prime? You know, GSP's not in his prime; he's far past his prime.
I'll tell you why he'd take that fight. Super fight money. GSP has been around in the game. He's been a part of some super fights, but he never made the mega million super fight money that's now capable because it just wasn't around back then. People weren't making upwards of $4 or $5 million a fight then. Now, are you kidding me? Khabib and GSP catch weight, fight at 160 just to give GSP that buffer since he's been out of the ring. Maybe give him a 2-month camp leading up to it so he can get some time to get spiced up. Are you telling me he wouldn't take that fight for $10 million? Because I know Dana White, I know Daddy Dana's got the money, and I know we all got the pocket change to throw it all together to make it happen. If he put up a GoFundMe, if Dana White really needed the money that bad, he could put up a GoFundMe tomorrow. And if people were like, hey, $50, you get the pay-per-view for free, but we just need to make sure you're going to buy it, that thing would sell 4 times over to pay their salaries, to pay everybody. It's not Zuffa, excuse me. The whatever Chinese company's running it now. I think there's a huge incentive. GSP's lost before in his career, so it's not like he doesn't know how to take an L. I think he would see it as a passing of his guard, and I don't think anybody would want to fight GSP again. And I think that's what GSP ultimately wants is peace. If he beats Khabib, he can go as like the sleeping beast. And if he loses to Khabib, he could pass the torch as the greatest that's ever been, and or at least the greatest in that weight class that's been, and right off into the sunset, rich, very rich. He can follow the sun many times over if he wants to. I don't know. There's a lot there. There's a lot there.
A lot to be said. But yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath for it. It's tough because Khabib is a once-in-a-lifetime guy. GSP is a once-in-a-lifetime guy. Both extremely dominant champions. But there's always going to be some guy, really. I mean, maybe not as dominant as Khabib, but there's always going to be another guy. And I think if GSP made the money that he needed to make, why do it again? I just don't see – he has nothing to prove.
Well, he came out of retirement to fight Michael Bisping. for a fraction of the potential money. And
Yeah,
and he
but he knew. Yeah, he knew he was going to win the fight, though.
right, but he did get his ass kicked a little bit too, though. I mean, I think one thing that a lot of people forget in that fight is that Bisping put a hurt on GSP. He split his ass up. He had a cut on his forehead that it still leaves a scar. You still see it on his Instagram videos. Of course,
Right.
yeah, Bisping didn't walk away with the W, but he put on a great performance, and it was a fight of legends. I mean, I don't know.
But
It
imagine
all
what Khabib's going to do to him.
right, right. It all depends on where GSP's incentives lie. If money still incentivizes him, if he's incentivized by money, then this fight's going to happen. The people demand it. Khabib demands it, and he's Dana's new Conor. Khabib's the new Conor. It's Khabib time, baby. Everybody forgot about Conor McGregor. He's taken top 10 fights, maybe, but we're talking about Khabib. And what Khabib wants, Dana's ready to give him. Khabib's jumped the sport in such a way that he's like, whatever you want on your way out, he already knows what to expect from him. Fight 29, fight 30, Kaputski. So he's going to go ahead and honor that. I don't see a lot of reason why it wouldn't happen unless it's just GSP not wanting to take an L.
Conor McGregor, Jorge Masvidal would sell more pay-per-views than GSP and Khabib.
Ooh, you think so? Worldwide, you think so?
Worldwide, baby.
See, if you would have told me that last year, I would have signed that. I would have stamped it, and I would have sealed it and mailed it. But I think his needle's dropped. However, Masvidal, his is on fire. I think he would be taking a step down in number fighting Conor McGregor. Now, if we're talking about if Khabib and Masvidal fought, I don't think you'd get the same effect. Just because it's not a matter of superstars in that sense. It's a matter of like a predictable outcome. You'd see somebody like that kind of getting smashed. But I mean, different weight classes, of course. Yeah. That's all theory. But
you have two guys that can promote a fight in Conor Masvidal, and you have one guy that sort of promotes a fight in Khabib, talks a little smack, I'll smash you here and there. And then you have GSP who doesn't talk any smack. And truth be told, I don't even think Khabib would talk smack because he respects him so much. So it'd be us hardcore fans going, this is a freaking awesome fight. I can't wait. Whereas you're going to get all the casuals with Conor and Masvidal watching that fight. So, hey, could be either way, but I just don't want to see GSP. I just love GSP so much. I don't want to see GSP get in there with Khabib.
Right. Because unfortunately we kind of know what would happen there. I think Khabib would just murder him. But it would be a great way to see some legends right off into the sunset. I don't know. Hey, maybe listeners, you let us know. Go ahead and post on our Facebook page and add some commentary. We'll address it on the next week's show because we've got months till this fight is even potential. Next event's coming up. We have the UFC Fight Nights of Lewis versus Oleinik. That's going to be a good one. I'm excited about that. The first fight on the main card is actually one that you have pegged for Fight of the Night. So why don't you go ahead and break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah, so Fight of the Night, I predict it's Dariush. And who's the guy he's fighting again?
Let me look at that name. Scott Holtzman.
Holtzman, yeah. Dariush versus Holtzman. It should have been a guy named Drakkar Klose fighting Beneil Dariush. But what we're going to see is fireworks. You have Beneil Dariush, a guy who's like the Keenan Cornelius of jiu-jitsu at one point in his career. A lot of people don't know about Dariush, but he had one of the most highest submission records in blue, purple, brown, and black belt. Submitted legends in jiu-jitsu, and he was like 18 years old. Everybody wanted him to stay in jiu-jitsu in the jiu-jitsu community, but he ended up going to MMA and King's MMA, and he learned the Muay Thai game very, very fast and immediately came in and started taking people out with his Muay Thai. Leg kicks, body kicks, punches, very straight punches, but he can also loop them around, and he's just going to come after you the whole fight. Then you have Holtzman. Holtzman, a good fighter nonetheless, strong fighter, has a good record. Would have rather seen Dariush fight somebody else. Holtzman's a good striker. He's a all around good mixed martial artist, but Dariush is the man in this fight. Dariush is going to bring that fight to him, and I'm hoping that Dariush doesn't submit him. So it is the fight of the night, and they just bang and they get after it. We're going to see submission attempts. We are going to see triangles. Okay, we're going to see heel hooks. We're going to see some funky. We might even see a wrist lock. Chino LaForge, are you ready for that?
Are wrist locks legal?
Oh yeah, baby. Everything's legal, and well, not everything, but wrist locks are legal in MMA. So hey, if we see a wrist lock, fans, I want you to take a drink for us, a shot for us, because that is going to be fight of the night. I am so pumped for that fight. Tag me in your post when you see that fight. I know it's going to be crazy.
Well stated.
Dariush is going to submit him, and I don't know how much more amped up I can be for this fight. I'm not going to put money on it because there's a great chance that Dariush is just going to submit him in like 30, 40 seconds. The other two things that can happen is either could be fight of the night or Dariush just mauls him.
Or it could just be a total cakewalk.
Yeah. So those are the two things that I'm looking at. Betting money would just be Dariush by submission or TKO in round one, because he's going to come after him hard. Dariush is probably really, really mad that he's not fighting like a top 5 guy, because Dariush should really be in title contention. Every time he gets close, he faced a really tough guy, and it's hard for him. But look out for that fight, everybody. But Neil Dariush, Scott Holtzman as a fight of the night.
All right. I didn't have a horse in the fight before. I didn't know much about either fighter, but you seem so passionate about Dariush that to be competitive, I'm gonna have to take Holtzman, just because my win-loss record is suffering so bad. I need some Hail Marys in there. I don't mind. I know it was originally supposed to be another fighter, so I'm hoping that maybe that wedge might be enough to throw confusion at some Dariush. Maybe he trained for a different fight. After that, we have these are some tough names to say. Yana Kuitasakya versus Juliaja. I'm not even going to say the last name. Two tough women fighting. I've seen a couple of their fights before. Both of them bring a lot of promise into the ring. Neither one of them, I believe, are ranked anywhere in the top 10. So it's going to be a fight to prove. I think both of them have a lot to prove. You've got Yana in this fight, correct?
Yes.
And I'm taking Juliaja. Juliaja. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, but however you say it, I'm taking her all day. So we already got a good couple of fights to disagree on, so that we'll be able to talk. The next fight after that is actually my pick for the fight of the night. It's Maki Pitolo, Coco Bombs. He's a Hawaii fighter. Of course, I'm going to pick a Hawaii fighter versus Darren the Dentist Stewart. Now, a little backstory on Darren the Dentist Stewart before I talk about Maki. He's had some good runs in the UFC. He had his original debut in 2016, but he found some real solid talent when he walked in. Had the door shut on him 3 times. Had a no contest in his first fight due to accidental clash of heads that ended up stopping the fight. So unfortunately, his first round through the UFC didn't go well. He picked up a couple victories before being cut, but this is his fight coming back into it. So this is going to be a really hungry version of Darren that we're seeing come in. The fights that he has won, unfortunately for him, fortunately enough, but have not been really heavy wins. He's not known for being a knockout artist, although he does have a couple of knockouts to his credit. Most of them are referee stoppages, and most of his fights have gone to decision. Maki Coco Bombs Pitolo, however, is known for being a bit of a knockout artist, with 4 of his past 5 victories coming from knockouts. I'm sorry, 3 of his past 5 victories come from knockouts, 4 of them finishes. He comes with a heavy hand and a heavy action rate His strikes per minute are off the charts. This guy likes to come in swinging. He always pushes the action. He came in short notice on his last fight, I believe was July, over on Fight Island, and really made a huge impact and really set a great example for other Hawaii fighters on what to do. He's a veteran. He's somebody who's been in the game for a good amount of time. He fought with, who was it? He fought with Bellator as well as, what was the other one? VFC for quite some time after won their championship a couple times and won some tournament brackets as well. So the kid's got talent, and I think he's really ready for his time to shine. I follow him on Instagram. He's all full of heart. I'm so stoked to see Coco Bombs fight the dentist. So my choice for that one is Patolo. And I believe you picked Stewart, correct?
I picked Stewart. But real quick, what's Coco Bombs all about? I don't get that.
Coco Bombs. So he's coconuts, Hawaii coconuts, bombs, throwing bombs, Coco Bombs. I guess that's the nickname. I don't know where it came from, but it's his Instagram handle as well. So,
but they'll let you back on the island if you don't pick a Hawaii fighter, right?
I'm sure people would forgive me, especially if we're talking betting. But in this one, I actually think in betting too. I'm still going to keep him. Moving on, we got Omari Akhmedov versus Chris Weidman. That's going to be a great fight, but we both have that one pegged for Chris Weidman. So I think we see the same thing happening. I think we see Chris dominating in the standing. They both come from a wrestling background, but Chris is better. We'll see as far as Chris's quickness. He has been a little slow in his last couple fights, so we'll see. But I think we're going to see a good Chris Weidman. I think you feel the same way.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I just want to see Chris Weidman win again. He's such a champ. He's such a, American hero guy. It's a little concerning with Omari. I kind of went back and forth on that because Omari is very diverse. He's a very good striker, good kickboxing. He's real straight down the line with his punches, good body kicks, good kicks overall. Wrestling, he's shown that he's a decent wrestler. But if Chris Weidman can be the Chris Weidman that we all know he is, he can take the fight to the ground and submit him. Chris Weidman really was taking down and submitting guys. That's how he kind of climbed up the ranks. And then he became more of a kickboxer when he started finding success with his hands. So I'm hoping that he's going to take Omari down and not try to outstrike him in this fight. So that's more of a heart pick for me.
Yeah, Chris Weidman has had some trouble with strikers recently, so we'll see if he's made some game plan changes. And then for the main event for that card, we got Derek Lewis and Alexei Oleinik. And you got Oleinik, I got Lewis. That's going to be a fun main event regardless. Both of them known to bring the power when it's time to fight. I don't see this fight going to the ground. I see it. If it does, I see Alexei being the one initially initiating the takedown. But I don't think he's going to. I think he thinks that he has the benefits standing, which in the speed department he does. But I think what he's going to lose track of is Derek Lewis's odd gas tank that never, as he gets slow and he gets tired, but his power never leaves. And that power stays all the way until the very end of the fight, as we've seen before. But you got Oleinik. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, it's a really intriguing fight. Alexei comes in with one thing on his mind: close the distance and get the fight to the ground. And he's one of the guys that actually pulls guard. So, like, if Derek Lewis gets overconfident, throws some big bombs, maybe lands in Alexei's guard, there's a huge chance that Alexei's going to submit him on the ground anywhere. Alexei has this no-gi Ezekiel that he does that nobody else can do, where he just
the clock choke,
he'll wrap you, and then he'll throw his arm around, and it's a really hard submission to get. For all you no-gi grapplers out of there that have tried that, a really, really tough submission to get. But somehow Alexei gets at almost every one of his fights. He has for sure the most wins by that no-gi Ezekiel. But it's gonna be because like you said, Derek Lewis is such a play. I don't know what you call it, but he'll, you think he's tired, and then all of a sudden he gets a knockout, and that's been the whole story of his career. He's tired, but he never gives up, and then he gets a knockout. But it's going to be really, really tough for Alexei to get past the strikes, because Alexei just is a very awkward striker. You saw it with Verdum. I actually had Alexei picked over the Verdum fight, but he's just such an awkward striker. He just looks like he just doesn't train striking, but all of his sparring rounds are comprised of him pulling guard and getting his no-gi Ezekiel. And that's just what he's trained. So, yeah, it's tough. But Derek Lewis isn't afraid to go to the ground either.
No,
so
and he has been training his conditioning and his wrestling in this recent off-season. That's what he's been toting, is that he's been really working hard on wrestling, conditioning, because he knew when he got his ass beat by Cormier, those are the two things that he needed to work on.
Yeah, but Derek Lewis, he's the type of guy to eat a chicken sandwich before the fight, and then say that the reason why he lost is because he had a bunk chicken sandwich, or the reason why he won is because he had the chicken sandwich. With all his comments.
That's true. I'll give you that. Either way, I think it's going to be a great fight. Before we close out the podcast tonight, there's one thing that I would like to talk about. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. That's happening in September. They just announced one of the undercard fights as well. It's going to be social media mogul Logan Paul fighting former slam dunk competition winner Nate Robinson. What? What? What do you think is going to happen?
You know what? Just because they put that ridiculous undercard fight, it just takes away from how cool it is to see Mike Tyson and Roy Jones fight. I mean, why are you going to put Logan Paul and the slam dunk? I mean, I don't. Who are these guys, man? I mean,
well, originally it was supposed to be Antonio Brown, but he had to back out due to legal issues because he's still technically under contract with the NFL, but he's just not being played. Very confusing. But yeah, I think they're attempting to kind of reach a new generation for boxing fans, just because they know boxing is kind of on its way out. They're still generating a lot of money with some of the super fights, but a lot of it's from old boxing fans. Not a lot of new boxing fans coming in. A lot of them are coming to MMA. So I think they're kind of doing their last-ditch efforts to kind of breathe some life back into the sport. They were also talking about having Evander Holyfield fight Bo again in an exhibition coming up. So that's possible. But, at a certain point, you can't redo the Ninja Turtles. You know what I mean? At a certain point, you have to change the name or do something different. And I'm not going to lie.
I wanted to see Tyson go against the one guy, Shannon Briggs, the champ guy. He always is calling people out. He's like he has the dreadlocks, and he goes in and he just heckles pro fighters. And he said, "Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ." He heckled Vitaly Klitschko's. And if you look up "Let's Go, champ" on the internet, all you fight fans, you're going to see this guy. I would rather see that or have him on the undercard against another legend. But just to put Logan Paul, I mean, what is – I don't even know these guys. And the slam dunk, I don't know.
Logan Paul did just technically sign pro as a boxer. He has had a few amateur fights, as well as he had that one pay-per-view that he also put on with that other social media mogul, Absijin, I think his name is, or something like that. But, maybe this is the new world of boxing. Who knows? Maybe all the best boxers are going to go to MMA, and then the rest will be social media superstars that turn into like a celebrity Foxy boxing. And if that's where the money's at, I mean, I understand that sucks, but hey, more for MMA. Yeah, it's a weird pageantry. I agree, but we did let CM Punk fight a couple years ago, and that was our fault in MMA. So maybe we're just dipping our toes in the waters to see how it's going to go. Brock Lesnar wasn't that far behind. We got to remember the things that happened in our sport as well. Stephen A. Smith still hanging in the annals of history, talking about leg kicks and not knowing anything about fighting. You know, I think there's enough pageantry. I think the only thing that the reason that they're having undercard fights is that they remember how Tyson fights used to go, where it was just booked as a Tyson fight, and then 45 seconds later it was over, and people felt like it wasn't worth 80, $90. And I understand that. But
no doubt. That's a problem with boxing, though, is, you know, if you bring back Randy Couture versus, I don't know, Big Nog, and you put him on a UFC card, do you think they're going to put some Instagram people on? No, they're going to have a solid undercard, or at least the co-main. I mean, show these guys some respect. These are two of the greatest boxers ever. And don't put some guy, Logan Paul. I mean, you know, hats off to him. He wants to go pro and whatever, but that means nothing. And that makes it a sideshow, a freak show, and it disrespects Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. But talking about that fight, I think that would be really cool to see. I haven't seen too much from Roy Jones. We've seen the clips of Mike Tyson. So hopefully Mike Tyson will come in and they'll get after it. And even if it's like a really good sparring match and nobody gets knocked out, I think we'll see some really cool stuff in that fight. And yeah, it's cool. I'll buy it.
Well, to see recent footage of Roy Jones, you don't have to dig back too far. His most recent fight was December of 2018, and he won it. So there is some footage. It might not be as high definition as you can find on Tyson right now. But Tyson looks great. Jones looks great. They both have been on camera saying that, yeah, they understand it's an exhibition. But Tyson said, hey, man, I'm a warrior. I get in there and I just do what I do. And Roy Jones was like, yeah, I understand it's an exhibition fight, but that's Mike Tyson across the ring from me. And I'm going to fight it like it's Mike Tyson. So he takes it seriously too. So we might see some one old guy knock out another old guy. And, hope the doctors are handy. I know George Foreman has voiced his opinion on how he thinks it's very dangerous. But also that's coming from a guy that named 50% of his children George or Georgia Foreman, so he wouldn't forget their name. So maybe you should take your own advice. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for Stoner versus Stoner tonight. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to look for me on social media, I'm at Chino Bra. That's everything, ChinoBrah. That's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Don Stoner, where can our listeners, watchers, viewers find you?
Find me on Instagram at dstoner_LWBJJ, stands for Lone Wolf Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And just Facebook, Don Stoner, whatever it is. But hey, guys, please support the podcast. We're putting everything into this. We're, huge fight fans, and we're trying to give people some insight into the fights and the knowledge. So if you could let your friends know about the page, tell them to give us a like, tell them to give us a follow, because we are here to stay. And super blessed to be here on this podcast. So check me out, message me if you guys need anything. Thank you so much, guys.
Tell all your friends that are fight fans. Apparently, from what I've been hearing from our viewers, we're definitely more of an intensive podcast than most, because we talk about the deeper level of fighting. So it might not be as much for the surface fans that are getting into it. But if you're an actual fan of MMA and you want to get into the deeper layer of it, we're the people to go to. If you want something comedic to check out my buddy Adam Hunter's podcast. That's MMA Roasted. That's another good one. Don, have you ever checked that one out before?
Yeah.
It's a great one. Adam Hunter's a great podcaster. He's an even better comedian. He's a better comedian than I am. He's a better podcaster than I am. Go check him out too. We don't mind you listening to multiple podcasts. We know if you listen to one, you probably listen to 5. So thanks for checking us out, guys. Check out our YouTube. Tell your friends. Comment on our pages. The more you comment, the more traffic we get. And the more it means that people are seeing us and that we feel like this is important and that it's not just us talking to cameras in the room. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be here next week, Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Until then, enjoy the fights. Aloha.